V'salachti b'soichem, and I will go amongst you, goimer, etc. V'oilach eschem kayamius, and I will lead you upright or standing high with an upright stature. This pasuk of the promise of V'salachti b'soichem follows what it says in the previous pasuk. Nasati mishkani b'soichem. I will place my resting, my mishkan. I will place it within you. So moving from this is understood. From what it says, I will place my mishkan within you. This is not yet the ultimate ascent. It's not the ultimate quality. There is one level called Nasati Mishkani B'Soichem, and then therefore he adds something higher than just placing my mishkan amongst you. And I will go amongst you, etc. We need to understand how is it possible to say that my going amongst you, that's the idea of traveling, and going is higher than the idea of placing my resting place within you? I was soon going to explain that resting in a certain place indicates more solid, more joined with the place, whereas hisalachti shows on it's moving, it's fluid, it's not something stable, it's not something established. It's known we use specifically the term halicha when it comes to the Mishkan. Like it says, when it talks about the idea of the Eibishter's relationship with the Mishkan and the tent, so the Eibishter used the term that the oil and the Mishkan was only like Hashem was traveling over there. Shoyadiras Arai was a temporary home for Hashem. Lamata Beis Hamikdash Shoyadiras Kva, that was below the Beis Hamikdash, which was an established set home for the Eibishter. But in the simple understanding of the pasuk here, when it says Nasati Mishkani B'Soichem, Koi al Beis Hamikdash, it's referring on the Beis Hamikdash. It's brought down in Rashi, it's in the Teres Koinim Medrash. It says that the Mishkani that Hashem is going to reside in is the Mikdash. How do we know it's talking about the Beis HaMikdash? We must say so from the simple reading of the Psukim. Because when Hashem said, I will place in the future tense my Mishkan amongst you, the Eibishter addressed the Yidden from the tent of meeting, meaning he was already in the Mishkan. Since it said, I will place in future sense, in future tense, if so, that means that at present, he didn't have the Mishkani B'Soichem. So therefore, we must say that when the Eibishter is using the term Mishkan, in this context, we must say that it's referring to the Beis HaMikdash that will be afterwards. And the advantage of the Beis HaMikdash later on is Diras Keva. This is the set and established home, not like the Mishkan, which was something that was mishalech, that was only a Diras Arai, it was only a temporary, a traveling home. And so how is it on our pasuk? It flips it around, it says, Nasati Mishkani B'Soicham, that's going on the Beis HaMikdash. And then V'salachti, which should have to do with the Mishkan, is after that. And still no, we say this is not the ultimate level and advantage and quality. And therefore he adds after this a higher matter. I will travel amongst you. That is a higher level than even V'nasati Mishkani B'Soichem. The second paragraph on the page, what it says, I will go and travel amongst you. Kashur uba behemshech mashkasav lifnei b'chukoisai teilechu. It's connected and comes in continuation to what it says beforehand, that you will be going in my statutes, in my chukim, meaning that the Hisalachti is related to Telechu. Hainu Shaydei Havoida Lamata Boy from the Telechu through our Avoida down here below. That the Yidden are doing the Chukim in a way of Telechu, that you are going. So Mida Keneged Mida, Nasam Shachem Al Maila Boy from the Hisalachti comes the drawing down from above, also in a way that Hashem is going and traveling. Shari Yedua, because it's known Shekol in Yom Shnim Shachem Al Maila Heim Ba'oifin Shal Mida Keneged Mida. All the matters that come down from above are in a way of measure for measure. Now the Rebbe is going to explain even those things that are beyond a Yisrus Asata. It's understood when you have a Yisrus Asata that's Ma'oider Yisrus Eila. So since the Yisrus Eila is coming in response to the Yisrus Asata, the inspiration down here below, so it's Mida Keneged Mida. But the Rebbe goes on to say that even if it's not in such a way, even if it's a Yisrus Eila, it's coming from above, beyond what we have earned and attained through our Yisrus Asata, even then there is a similarity between what we did and what Hashem gives us. Why? There has to be a preparation and something similar and alike to the matter that comes down from above. So what does that mean? So he's going to give the example of how it is that we have to prepare the place for Hamshacha and Yisrus La'ela comes from above. Similar to what it says in the Zohar, that Hashem only rests in a complete and whole place, in a perfect place. Meaning, after affecting down here below that the place should be complete and perfect, and a place that is welcoming to Hashem, so then it comes down from above, the perfection of above. So what do we see? Even in a case where it's not a Yisrus Asata that awakens the Yisrus Eila, since we are looking for Hashem's shleimus and completion and perfection to come down, how do we make our place down here below, ourselves, the world, a place that's ready to receive Hashem's perfection and shleimus, by making our place a perfect and complete place? Therefore, in a similar vein over here, that through our halicha, through our traveling, that draws down, or at least prepares for the hisalachti b'soichem from above. So he goes on right after the parentheses, 4 lines from the bottom. It's known, the analysis of what it says over here. By the expression of B'chul Koisa, it says specifically, you will go. Not in the common expression used when it's talking about chukim, lashon shmira, v'asiya v'cholo, usually uses the term, you will observe the chukim, or you will do the chukim. So why does it say telechu? Additionally, not just why does it say the idea of going in the chukim, additionally the plural versus the singular. Why does he also say it in the plural? Seemingly, Hashem could have said this in the singular. Like many tzivuyim, many commands that were said in Matan Torah in the singular. Top of the next page. Even though the intention was for all the Yidden, still in all it was said in the singular. So over here also in our parsha, it could have said in b'chokoisai teluch, or some other expression. Yet over here it says telechu in the plural. Why does it say telechu in the plural? So in the simple meaning, it means the plurality of Klal Yisrael. But the Rebbe explains that telechu is referring to multiple types of travels in the chukim. It indicates the As it says, miut rabim shnayim, the minimum of a plural is two, so it's referring to two types of traveling in the telechu. Since this telechu of bechukoisai is a preparation for what we're drawing down from above, over there also it says v'hisalachti instead of v'holachti, which is the more common term. So from the fact that it says v'hisalachti, the Alter Rebbe derives from that it's a plural type of form that indicates also two types of traveling and two types of going from Hashem. Just like by us, there is a plural of traveling, two types of hiluch. And similarly, because of this plurality of our avodah and the plurality of what Hashem is doing, so also gam b'siyum einyan namar v'oilech eskom koyim mius. Therefore, at the conclusion of the matter, it says, "I will lead you upright." What's koyim mius? Koyim mius, the Chazal derived that the word koyim mius is a plural as well, and it comes to teach us shtei koyimos will be the height of two statures and two heights. Again, the idea of double, because it's a result of the double traveling on our part, the double traveling on Hashem's part. So the Rebbe is going to explain what this double traveling is all about. Oizbeis. An explanation of this matter is in the general service of a person. There's the two approaches of drawing down from above to below and ascending from below to above. This means initially every avodah that we do needs to be preceded by some hamshacha from above. Even when the avodah down here below is done by my own efforts, and like the expression a lot of times used, I'm a self-starter. I don't need anything to push me to do it. Still in all tzarech ezer v'siyol zemel ma'ila, we still need an assistance and a help for our avodah from above. Like the pasuk says, mihik dimani v'ashalem, that Hashem says, who has preceded me, and I will pay them. Meaning that Hashem says, if anybody came and did something before me that enabled anything to take place, let me pay them for that service. In other words, the Hashem is saying in a rhetorical way, nobody preceded me. Nothing happens without Hashem first enabling it to happen. Chazal explain, who gave the person the lulav and the esrig to be able to be mekayim the mitzvahs, the lulav and esrig? Who gave the person a cow to be able to take the hides and make from it tefillin, etc., etc.? But this is also a general idea of any type of avodah that I may think that I'm starting from myself. It's not about myself. It is coming from above. It is coming first by being preceded by above. This hamshacha that precedes every type of avodah below, it's from a higher and higher, that there's nothing higher than it. It's beyond the entire paradigm and category of place, even though place in general is associated with the physical world, but there's also spiritual concepts of place, as we'll soon explain. And it's drawn down to the lowest of the low, that there's nothing lower than it, which is below the category of place, beyond place to below place. What is the place that he's referring to, that it comes from beyond it and reaches below it? So he says, Mokim is the numerical equivalent of Shem Havaya. In the Mefarshim that say it's called a Meruba. Shem Havaya, when it is a Meruba, that each letter is squared. Meaning, like the Rebbe translates in the parentheses, Yud Pa'amim Yud, you multiply the Yud of Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei by Yud, and then you multiply the Hey of Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei by Hey, and you multiply the Vav by Shem Yud of Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei by Vav, and the Hey again. So then you have the numerical equivalent of 186. And because of this reason, because Mokim is a certain type of gematria of the name Yud Kei Vav Kei, that's why Hashem is called Mokim, like we have in the Haggadah, Baruch HaMokim Baruch Hu. And from the Hashem being called a Mokim came down the idea of Mokim also down here below, that the physical place in this world is a result of, and through Seder Ishtalshlus, from Hashem being Mokim. So, where is the lower than Mokim that we're saying? That the Hamshacha that precedes everything comes down from higher than Mokim to lower than Mokim. What's the lower than Mokim if our Mokim down here comes from Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei? But the klippas are in a position to godliness. They are lower than the entire category of place. That's the idea that the Hamshach of above comes down all the way to the place of klippas. That the klippas are lower than the entire category of place, as we will explain further on. So now he's going to get back to the idea of the two types of travels by speaking about what comes from above to below and what comes from below to above. By prefacing that the two ideas of drawing down from above to below, meaning what Hashem has a Yisrus D'La'elah that precedes any Yisrus D'La'Sata that we do. And then there's the ascent from below to above, which is our Yisrus D'La'Sata that we are doing. So these two things are also Yeshnam Gam B'Torah, are also to be found in Torah. The Rebbe in other places says that everything has to be found in Torah because Torah is Takel B'Raisa Bara Alma, and Torah is an intermediary and a connector between Hashem and the Yidden. Therefore, everything has to be reflected in Torah. So he's going to explain where both of these things are found in Torah. Shariat Torah, Mitzadat Menim Shechas, Mal Mailo, the Torah on its own is drawn down from above, just like the initial Yisrus D'La'elam. Even after the Torah descended down here below, it still remains the words of Hashem Mamish, like it says, behold, my words are like fire, and it says over there, like we had in a different Maimah recently, just like fire is not susceptible to Tumah, so too the Torah is not susceptible to Tumah. So it maintains its above the world's aspect of being out of this world. Well, once the Torah came down here below, a person has to study the Torah. That's an avodah from below to above. Now he's going to explain further that there's two parts to the Torah, and those two parts reflect also these things above to below, below to above. In general, this is the difference between the written Torah and the oral Torah. The written Torah comes in a way from above to below. That's why Yid cannot add or detract from it whatsoever. Like it says, do not add and do not detract from the Torah. This is a matter that was not given in a person's hand to affect in it any particular matter, because it came down from above to below. That's why it's not changeable. It's not within our possession, and we don't have any ownership over it to be able to do anything to it. This is something from above. That is all in Torah Shebeksav. Masha Enkim b'Torah Shebal as opposed to the oral Torah. How do you do it? It's known Shekol Echad Misrael Yesh Lechelik b'Torah. Every single Yid has a part in the Torah. Top of the next page. Shetzarach L'Chadish B'y. That a person has an obligation. The Alter Rebbe brings us down Hilchos Talmud Torah in Halacha. That a person has an obligation to add to the Torah, to come up with new insights. This is also known in the Zohar as expanding the Torah. Every Yid has a job to expand the Torah. The idea of the oral Torah is that a person has to effect in it from below to above, as opposed to Torah Shebeksav, you can't add to it whatsoever. And even more, if you want to break it down further, in each one of these two things, the written and oral Torah, there's the both lines from above to below and below to above. Even in the written Torah, there is the idea that a person could add to it through his own service from below to above, as I'll explain in a moment. Also in the oral Torah, there is a matter that's beyond the effect and influence of the person from above to below. In the written Torah, in addition to the fact that you shall not add and you shall not decrease, so therefore, seemingly, there's no milmata l'mayla part of the written Torah. There's nothing that I could add to it. Yes, but zegam ha'inyan shekol ma shetalmid vasik asad l'chadish nemer l'maish b'sinai. There's also the idea that everything that a diligent student in the future will come up with a new insight, it was told to Moshe in Sinai. And it's not just talking about the oral Torah. It's also referring to what this diligent student comes up with new insights in the written Torah, beside and the secrets of the Torah, or remez, those things that are in the way of hinted in the Torah, and drush, things that are derived in the way of a drasha. Vafilu b'pshat aksuvim. Even in the literal meaning of the psukim, one can come up with new insights. Seemingly, the literal meaning of the psukim, how can you come up with new insights? You read the pasuk, you translate it, and that's all there is to it. So he brings a proof that's not that way. The Rashbam writes about his grandfather Rashi, that the Rashbam often argued with Rashi about Rashi's explanations of the pasuk in Chumash, even though Rashi says, I came only to explain the Pshutish HaMikra, the simple meaning of the Pshat. And the Rashbam discussed with him alternate approaches of understanding the Pshat, and he actually disputed Rashi's, some of Rashi's Pirushim. So he records a discussion that he had with his grandfather, with Rashi, that Shahoidaloi, that Rashi admitted to the Rashbam, if the Rashi would have had time, he would have to make additional explanations on the pasuk, on the Chumash, according to the simple meaning of the text that is renewed every single day. So we see that even in Pshat, there is still room for Chidush, for the Talmud Vasik. So even in Pshat of Torah Shebeksav, there is still the Avodah Malmata L'mayla. Now going back to Torah Shebal Peh, that we said that Torah Shebal Peh is primarily Malmata L'mayla, from below to above. What aspect of Torah Shebal Peh is Malmata L'mata? So he says, Torah Shebal Peh, so too in the oral Torah, in the Kol Masha Talmud Vasik Asur L'chadish. In addition to the idea that in the oral Torah, there is the entire the entire idea of everything that a diligent student will in the future come up with new insights. There's also aspects of the Torah Shebal Peh that's not within a person's purview and his control. He cannot change it whatsoever. That's the idea that the halacha says that if a person made a mistake in something that's agreed, that the Chamim agreed on, that's considered a Dvar Mishnah, so then whatever, let's say, the Beis Din paskind, it has to go back. The whole law goes back. But if it's under dispute or whatever, so then even if we ruled according to one opinion, so it doesn't have to go back. That was even before the Mishnah was established as a closed book. Once the Mishnah was sealed, so then it became by the Amoraim the same way concerning the Mishnayos, that once something is in the Mishnayos, an Amoida can't argue against it. Like throughout the Gemara, we find that Amoraim are challenged with their views by bringing a proof the other way from the Mishnah, because an Amoida cannot challenge a Mishnah. And after the Gemara was sealed, so then the Geonim, in comparison to the Gemara, also had the thing that you can't challenge a Gemara. So too it goes with generations that followed them. Like it's explained in the laws of Talmud Torah of the Alter Rebbe in Halacha, the definition and the categorization of all those things that are called Mishnah. So we see there are certain things that they become established that you can't move it, just like you can't move Torah Shebeksav. So those things that once they become established, that's like Milmayl Lamata for a person. I need to accept what it says in the Mishnah. I need to accept what it says in the Gemara and so on. So therefore there's also in the oral Torah what comes down from above, and the person cannot affect in it whatsoever. Now broadening this idea of the difference between Torah and mitzvahs. The Torah is drawing down from above to below, like we said before. It's Hashem's words. As opposed to mitzvahs, their entire idea is the avoid of a person from below to above. And more in general, it's a difference between Torah mitzvahs that come from above in the world. Torah mitzvahs were given from above. As opposed to the world. That in the world has to be the avoid of a person to elevate the world from below to above. How does he do so? Through the ladder that's standing on the ground and its head is reaching above. So the person uses that ladder as a means to elevate the world and bring it upwards.